Curtis McCullom shares his personal adversity and how it became a catalyst for building a purpose-driven, high-impact coaching business. Listeners will gain insight into how healing unresolved inner blocks can fuel clarity, resilience, and authentic leadership. This episode will inspire founders to transform breakdowns into breakthroughs and scale with alignment and not burnout. Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyan, your host, Lead Machine founder of the Lead Machine Mastermind Group and Marketing Group, and I'm dedicated to helping you tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream life. So whether you're just starting out or you want to take your business to the next level and your leadership to the next level, let's get this conversation started and turn your dreams into reality. So today we have Curtis McCullom. He helps CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs eliminate the blind spots that may have silently held you back since your childhood. And we were just talking about childhood before we started recording. Unlocking greater income, confidence, and personal freedom, which I think we're all interested in. And my favorite, he's got a LGET mindset framework. Learn, grow, expand, and transform, which I just love mindset frameworks of any kind, formulas that help you get repeatable results. So I'm looking forward to that. And he also uses powerful modalities like NLP, mental emotional response, MER, and hypnotherapy. He facilitates deep, lasting transformation. He's also the host of the Curtis McCullom Show, where he shares powerful conversations on success, mindset, and human potential. And really what I like about him is that emotional courage and the healing that he mentions that I think that we all need to experience. So I'm really excited to hear about that. So welcome to the show, Curtis. Thank you for getting up and coming into the show. I know it's early where you are today. A little early, not too early. But.
No, it's not too early here in Southern California. I normally get up anyway, Paul, about 6:30. You know, especially on Monday, Wednesdays, or Friday. I do a quick workout, about an hour workout to make sure I try to stay fit as possible and try to make sure that I deliver to my clients and the people who I serve the best way I possibly can. So thank you for allowing me to come and share my story with you today.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of story, at the top, when I was introducing, you were talking about healing from childhood things, and I think we all need healing. Can you tell us about what that spark was, or that healing that fired you off in this direction?
Well, it's interesting that about 40 years ago, I wanted to be a motivational speaker, and so I set out on that journey. I listened to all the greats from Tony Robbins when he first started, did the Fire Walk. I did Brian Tracy, Dennis Waitley, Jim Rome, all those guys. I was like, had a university on wheels. And so if you remember those days, and so, I want to be a motivational speaker. So I went out into sales. I said, okay, I want to do it before I can teach it. And so I did. I went out, I stood up in front of my class when I was in financial services in my cohort, and I gave them my number one speech without ever selling a product yet. So that's what the mindset part was all about. And so less than a year and a half, I was number one in the company. I mean, I broke company records in number one. And what happened about 3 months or less than a month afterwards, I crashed and burned because of a blind spot. And that blind spot was basically, or that trauma was that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, how can I continue to do what I'm doing? And those things, that program just kept running and running and running and running. And so that's kind of what spurred me on for this growth. But this is the catch for me personally. I was like, we're lost in the wilderness. You think about Moses and the children of Israel going to the promised land. It took me about 40 years to make this journey, to kind of really realize what it was that was the block through, or was the block that was actually preventing me from doing this. And that's when I went into coaching. I had an opportunity to retire from financial services. My wife says, hey man, do what you love doing, and that's helping people. And so that's when I went back and I got certification as an executive coach, certification as a clinical hypnotherapist. I'm a master practitioner in neurolinguistic programming and also a master practitioner in mental and emotional release. And all of those modalities kind of work together. And then in the last couple of years, I developed what I call a legit mindset, is the learning, growing, and expanding, transforming mindset to kind of help people through this. So that's kind of where the journey started about 40 years ago. It continued. And the interesting part about this is that I'll share with people a little bit about my breakthrough and what happened and how it kind of works a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah. And you said that's legit, not they'll get.
Yeah, basically, yeah, I call it legit.
Too legit to quit.
Yeah, there you go. Too legit to quit. Yeah, I mean, what happened? That's interesting. When I first came out with it, it was, I think it was Elgit. I mean, it was different. And when someone was on the podcast or was coaching someone, he looked at it and it's like, oh, okay. What if you change the letters around and put the L in front and jit, and let's call it legit? And so basically, that's kind of what we term it as legit, but it's actually Elgit, but we call it legit. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that all entrepreneurs, being an entrepreneur, number one, is it can be a lonely job because no one really understands you, or your family are the worst, the worst because, well, hey, it's just like Jesus when he went to his hometown and he couldn't do miracles hardly, because no one believed it that he was who he said he was.
Yeah.
So a lot of us really struggle with that, and I too have gone that. It does take a long time that those things that happen to you when you're a child. Like
Yes.
for me, it was I was given responsibility, and then I didn't meet their expectations, and they shamed me in front of my class.
Yeah.
And that I'm not
Right.
good enough. Wait a minute, but I
Yeah.
am good. I'm a child of God.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, you know, but you carry that along. And so, what were some of the habits that helped you like overcome that and gain clarity after hitting that wall and realizing that you had one?
Well, this is the thing. Now, the difference between what I do now, Paul, and what I was carrying it for so long, and not even knowing. And that's the one thing about a blind spot. Sometimes we don't even know that we have a blind spot.
Yeah.
Number two, until we keep hitting these walls, right? The first
Hmm.
wall I hit was when I was became number one. And one of the things the message that was coming to me that success is hard and difficult, right? And then
Yeah.
again, when I was top in sales, and I remember I was in the top 10 or 15%. I was doing over $1 million in revenues for the company. And my wife came to me and says, wow, man, you just do this with ease. And I looked at her and I'm like, no, this is hard and difficult. And about and I was getting all these transformations from these individuals that I was coaching. But I said something is still blocking me. I mean, what is it? What is that thing? And the message that kept coming to me that success is hard and difficult. So I had a friend of mine do mental and emotional release on me. It takes about 10 minutes, right? So I'm
Hmm.
carrying this for 40 years. In less than 10 minutes, we got rid of it. And the message that came across is that about 2 years old, not me knowing, but on a subconscious level, I accepted and decided that success is hard and difficult. My mom was trying to potty train me at 18 months. I didn't know this at the time, but that's the message came up. So once we finished the session of a mental and emotional release, we went back, we looked at that event, and I says, "Oh no, I'm strong, I'm vibrant, and I'm consistent." Right. And so I gave myself
Hmm.
these new messages. I was curious. And so I called my mom and says, Mom, what was happening in my life at around age 2? And she said, that's what she said. She said, oh, yeah, it was hard. This is the same message. It was hard and difficult for you to be potty trained. The same message that I kept
Hmm.
coming up with over the years is the same message that subconsciously was still there, telling me that success is hard and difficult. And that's how it really works. Is that the difference now, Paul, is that because of the technologies that I have, a person doesn't have to go through years and years of therapy. Not saying that therapy is bad, but I'm saying is that some of the things that we go through, we can get rid of fast, quick, and easy through some of the methodologies that I'd actually currently use now.
Wow. That's amazing. We sometimes, I have another childhood story that I can relate. I'm a drummer,
Okay.
and a singer, but we did one of my favorite songs is The Little Drummer Boy. Comes
Yes.
around every Christmas year. And in second grade, we went around, or first grade, we went around to all of our classes. I went to a Catholic school, and we went to all of our classes. I played the drum. And my cohorts, my comrades, they sang The Little Drummer Boy. And when we
Right.
got to the eighth grade class, which is where my brother was going, the nun said, "Mr. Guyan, how come you're not singing?" So I'm playing the drums, the Little Drummer Boy.
Right.
And then she had me sing. And that just put me on the spot.
Wow.
And I could sing, but I didn't. I just squeaked it out like that.
Hmm.
And then she said, "Well, that's Mr. Guyan. That's very good. Everyone give him an appropriate hand clap." And so they took their fingernails and they clapped on their
Wow.
fingernails. And I was so ashamed. And of course, it was my brother, who I looked up to in front of it. And, it was a long time before I could sing in public. And I sing in church. I'm in the choir. I'm a
Yeah.
cantor. So, and I'm in a rock and roll band. I sing all the time now,
Right.
but I wasn't good enough. And
That's right.
so that has come through to me in my coaching business. And that's the reason I started this podcast was because
Wow.
I was afraid of being visible. And I had a coaching session similar to yours and a breakthrough. And so I went and told my boss, I said, "Hey, I'm starting a podcast. This is what I'm doing. I don't want you to be threatened. This is, I'm here, I'm loyal to the business and all that,
Right.
but I have an outside personality and I'm doing this. And so I just want you to know that that's what I'm doing." And that was the hardest thing I could have done. And I said, "I'm starting a podcast so that I can overcome this fear of being visible." And so I'm this is probably 130 episode right around there. And so I'm getting my, I'm not afraid to be in front of the camera anymore.
No.
So, but yeah, we let those childhood things just, you know, limit us.
Yeah.
And we don't, and like you said, they're blind spots.
Right.
So you mentioned the invisible wall, even as a top performer. What did that look like in your life once you overcame that?
Well, basically, what happens now is because same thing. I don't mind being visible, right? It's like I want to be authentic to who Curtis is, and
Yeah.
my feeling and emotions now is like I'm looking for people who are looking for me, right? And I'm
Hmm.
not. I don't have to hide behind of the mask anymore. I don't have because growing up, I was growing up in a Christian family. For me, it was fire and brimstone. My father was a pastor, he was a preacher, and every Sunday, that pounding message of you're going to hell, you're not worthy, you're not worthy. Even though you're supposed to be worthy, you're supposed to, but it's like you never do enough to make it through. And so those messages also was ringing loud in my ears. But once
Hmm.
you clear it, what happens is that things just start to gravitate to you. It's like things with ease.
Mm.
And at the same time, when we talk about the legit mindset, the whole idea behind that is that it's really releasing the negative emotions, setting some clear objectives on what you want, then taking some inspired action on a daily basis. I noticed that now, since I've released that for myself in the last couple of months, the inspired actions is just pouring out of me. I mean, it's like I'm
Hmm.
creating more than I've ever created before. And then the key to the longevity of a breakthrough or transformation is
Hmm.
conditioning of the mind. And people forget that part. I think a biblical passage in the book of Proverbs says, protect your mind, guard your mind with all of your heart, because out of it flows the issues of life. So the whole ideal is that this conditioning is the key, is the secret sauce in my opinion, of us actually consistently moving forward in a way that we want to move forward. And that's why I create for all of my clients is what I call a bespoke daily mental supplement. And it's a meditation where they can listen to of all the learnings that we've done through that session so that they can now kind of enhance that growth.
Now, how does that work?
The,
How
the
does
way,
your
which
that
part?
Well, yeah, I mean, I asked you about habits, and so
Yeah.
this is conditioning. So
Yes.
you deliver are these customized messages? You mentioned bespoke.
Yeah.
They're customized for each individual, or are they're some from a library that is based on your systematic method?
Okay. So when I'm coaching a one-on-one, we do have some, I think some free ones on my site where they can
Uh-huh.
download, like some on anxiety or on confidence or something like that. Generic
Hmm.
ones, that's something that everybody is experiencing. And when I'm coaching one-on-one, what we do, Paul, is like you had that limiting belief that when you saying when you was a child, you had the voice, you didn't want to be seen. So now what we would do in your situation, for me, the event that happened that day is a significant emotional event.
Hmm.
What we try to find is what's the root cause of that feeling that you had that day, and we get rid of the root cause so that we can eliminate
Ah.
all the other emotions that could be attached to that event. Usually you had a significant emotional event, you stood up in front of the class, you tried to sing, your voice squeaked, everybody like gave you this little clap with the fingernails. Like, oh my God. And so that
How cruel.
how cruel. And
Yeah.
but that's not it may not be the first event that actually causes that same similar emotion.
Yeah.
And what I do in my session is I'm getting to the part where the bespoke daily mental supplements.
Hmm.
So that when we end the session, Paul, you're going to come up with a learning of what it means now to you when you look down on that event. Oh, it meant that I was courageous and I was forthwith because I stood in front of the class,
Mm.
right? So that's the new
Yeah.
message. So now
Uh,
what we do is on all the emotions that you experience from that event, you're going to have some learning. You're going to have a new way of seeing it based on your current resources. Now we take all of those things that we've done in the session, then we create a a a meditation based on that. So yours is
okay.
custom to what you experience and not what I'm experiencing. So yours would be totally different than mine, and everybody's would be totally different because of the fact that you're going to get a specific learning from your incident that now every time what we try to do is so that when that comes up again, the new messaging is going to be kind of ingrained in your subconscious and you start to respond differently every time.
Right. So I'm a systems guy and a kind of guy. So you actually record something for them and that they can listen to. Is that it?
That's right. This it's the
Yeah.
recording.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the recording, and usually about 5 to 10 minute recording.
Uh-huh.
So basically, a recording would maybe usually start out like I said. If we had a session and you told me that walking on the beach give you comfort, or that's where you normally feel like you have a closer connection with God. So I might say, okay,
Hmm.
Paul, go ahead and see and sense yourself walking on the beach where you're having this special connection with God. And as you walk
Hmm.
on this beach, see yourself becoming extremely relaxed. And now, and in this relaxed state, we're going to give you the truth about you, that you are God's child, that
Hmm.
you are meant to be what you're doing. You are a powerful, influential individual that's changing people's lives. So I'm giving you messages that we've talked about within the session that now it bypasses what we call a critical faculty, that voice in our heads that prevents us from actually learning something or getting something.
Hmm.
It bypasses that messaging and allows your subconscious mind to absorb the new information so that now you can act totally different.
Wow. That's really interesting. How do you make that stick? Or is it in 10 minutes it's gone? Or is it something that you said condition. So obviously you have to rinse and repeat, do that for a while.
Well, basically, the think about like this is it's like the emotions around the event is gone within 10 minutes. That
Yeah.
means that initial emotions that you think about when you look at that event, you don't get that feeling in the body anymore, whatever that feeling may be.
Yeah. Okay.
And just like anything else, this is key to individuals. Just like we get up every day and we shower, right? The reason we do that,
Mm-hmm.
that's personal hygiene. We get up every day, we brush our teeth, that's dental hygiene. So what we have to look at is that we need mental hygiene
Mm-hmm.
too, so that every day we need to go through some type of routine so that we can stay mentally sharp. And one of the ways I help individuals do that is creating these recordings so that they can make it easier for them to do it than to do it on their own. Now, I also teach them how to meditate, and I also teach them self hypnosis so that they can actually put themselves in a very conducive state so that they can make changes on their own. Because it's not all about me, it's me empowering them to become the best version of themselves.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. It's very custom.
Yes.
Well, I call it custom, you call it bespoke, but
Same thing.
that's yeah, it's the same thing. We mentioned that, let's see, there was personal loss and adversity that came across your life, and that how has that shaped the way you serve your clients and structure your business? I know you just gave us a kind of a peek behind the curtain there. You customize, you give people a custom, one of a kind meditation that they can use to change their lives as long as
Yes.
they do it. They just have to
Yeah.
do it. You can't do it for them, but
I can't do
with
that
that,
for them.
yeah. But as I used to say, or my coach used to say, is if only they would do what their coach told them to do, they would be so much better off. But how did that change the way you serve? Because you've mentioned serve a couple of
Yeah.
times.
Basically, for me, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, we lost our son.
Oh,
We lost
I'm sorry.
our oldest son, and that changed my world. It
Yeah.
changes parents, because parents don't usually shouldn't have to bury their child. Normally,
Right.
obviously what we're looking for is that the child bears the parent. But we went through that, and going through that was being able to process emotions so that we can make it through. Two things that happened during that period is, number one is that we we all agreed, my wife and my daughter, we all agreed that we're going to allow each other to grieve the way they need to grieve, because
Yeah.
everybody grieves differently.
Hmm.
And then one of the things I teach my clients is that regardless of what the emotion is that's actually you're experiencing, you can always, first of all, acknowledge that you are experiencing sadness.
Mm.
And what I mean by acknowledge it is that say it. Most of the time, a person does not acknowledge what they are
Hmm.
experiencing, or what they do, they identify with it. I want the audience to really hear this. There's a difference in I'm feeling sad than I am sad.
Hmm.
And so what we try to do, we try to tell people to acknowledge the emotion, acknowledge the feelings, acknowledge whatever it is, what it is. And part of that's where the healing begins. What I was sharing with one of my assistants the other day, she lost her father. And I told her
Hmm.
this. I said, it's okay not to be okay, but it's not
Yeah.
okay to pretend you're okay and you're not okay.
Hmm.
So part of that acknowledgement, even that's a biblical principle. In Book of James, he talks about, he says, confess your faults or acknowledge your faults one to another that you may be healed. So the healing starts with the acknowledging and allowing yourself to feel whatever you're going through. And then the other part of that is then ask yourself, what is it that you need now that would allow you to release this and learn from it? Because the learning is the part where the subconscious mind wants you to learn something from these experiences.
Hmm.
So through that grief, through losing my son, through searching and asking God and asking the universe, what is it that I need to be doing? That's where I came out with the legit mindset, was the
Ah.
fact that this life that we're on, this journey that we participate in, is all about learning, It's all about growing. It's all about expanding. And it's all about transforming. And regardless of what
Yeah.
we're going through, if we can remember that moment, the most heartbreaking moment in our lives, losing our son,
Mm.
what can we learn from that? How can we grow from that? How can we expand and how can we transform? And that's kind of where we even came up with the legit mindset.
And that's a beautiful gift if you think about it. That having gone through that, and I have not lost a child. My wife has, but I've lost parents and three brothers in
Right.
the last 5 years, and everyone grieves differently. And I pretended to be okay when I wasn't okay. And when my mom passed, I did what what you might likely have did. I took care of the estate. I took care of all those things. I was fine. I'm good. I'm good to go.
Right.
And then something else happened that went, oh, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it, Paul, is that it's okay to acknowledge that you're not okay.
Yeah.
I mean, especially sometimes I know people put this on men, but it happens to everybody. It's like we
Mm,
pretend that it's okay. And the whole idea of an emotion is just the feeling that wants
yeah.
to communicate with us and leave. And when
Yeah.
we allow ourselves to go through it, James talks about that too. He says, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, the triumph of your faith, work it patience. Then he says, but let patience have her perfect work, meaning let whatever you're going through to actually go through it. Because he says on the other side of that, he says you'll be more mature. You won't be needing or wanting certain things because that emotion now is a mature emotion. Not that you'll never feel sad again, but now you know
Yeah.
that the sadness that I'm feeling is just an emotion that wants to communicate with me. And I can allow that to do that. And I can continue to move forward.
And I like what you said about that emotion can leave. That feeling in your body, when we have experiences, we feel it in our body.
Yes.
So we might get a lump in our throat, or there's a book called Feel the Feeling, and it's
Mm-hmm.
talking about saying love that feeling, acknowledge that feeling, and don't try to get rid of it.
Right.
Let it dissipate on its own with love and with grace.
Yes.
And that's kind of what you remind me of when you tell me that.
Yeah.
So
Basically, let it communicate with you.
yeah.
It's letting you know, hey, right now, because people always says, oh, you probably really miss your son on his birthday or Christmas or those holidays. Then I says, no, sometimes I just miss my son on a Thursday.
Yeah.
It's no
Yeah.
special. It's no special day. It's like just a moment,
Yeah.
or a song or a thought, or now you pick up your phone and you have pictures in there, and then all of a sudden Apple or Google says, "Oh, here's a memory that you want to remember." Whoop.
Yeah. Oh.
So, but the whole idea of it is like allow yourself to have that feeling and emotion. It's like
Yeah.
we don't people like fight it or try to suppress it. No, that's when it goes into the body,
And
and that's when other stuff starts to happen.
that's when it becomes a blind spot.
Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned the gift of the legit mindset. So tell us about that. I think you've kind of already said that, but let's dig deeper into that and how founders can apply it to create clarity and momentum and especially during challenging times like
Yeah,
we're living in those
basically
now.
with the legit mindset is like I said before, the reason it was actually created because for years, literally years, I was asking God, I'm like, God, what is this life all about? What is it that we're going through? What is it? Why we go through what we go through? I would look and I would be driving. I see people just doing life, but I didn't understand it. And growing up in the church, growing up as a Christian, yeah, I was taught fear and I was like, be scared of God. God is this big guy in the sky who's going to pounce on you and all this. And I'm like, something else. This is more than that, right? And
Yeah.
so a few years ago, I read a book. It's called Many Lives, Many Masters. It's a book where a doctor who was a psychologist practiced hypnotherapy, and he did what they call past life regressions. If you believe in it or not is not the point. If you believe in it or not,
Yeah.
is the fact that this lady was going back and looking at other lives and getting learnings from it, meaning what she learned from it. And that's kind of where when I read that book, that's what came to me. It's like, oh my God, this is what this life is all about. This is what this journey is all about. If I can share that with my clients, that whatever they're going through, whatever their challenges are, is just a moment in life, that it's an opportunity for them to learn something, they can grow
Mm-hmm.
from it, they can expand, and they're going to transform. But guess what? That cycle continues. The universe that we see now is not the same universe of yesterday. Every day, this universe is continuing to expand. So we
Mm-hmm.
serve a God, we serve a universe that continues to expand. That means that we too are growing, learning, growing, expanding, and transforming. But then, so that's kind of the crux of the legit mindset of
Mm-hmm.
understanding that we're on a journey, and this journey is all about learning something. That means whatever you're going through, the loss of a son, the loss of a child, the loss of a job, the loss of a spouse, whatever it is, what is it can you learn from
Mm-hmm.
that? How can you grow from that learning? How can you now expand? Because now you're more than what you were yesterday. Now the transformation comes in as you continue to grow, because now life doesn't stop. I mean,
No.
things
Yeah.
happen. We lost our son, right? 4 or 5 years ago. Then we lost we lost my wife's mother about
Mm-hmm.
a year or so later. Then we lost her brother last year. So life
Yeah.
didn't stop, but
Right.
everything that we went through, we can now go on this new learning is much easier than it was yesterday. So that's kind of in a nutshell what it is, of
Yeah.
what the legit mindset is all about.
Yeah, and that reminds me of Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill
Yes.
wrote. He wrote with something like, I'm paraphrasing here, with in every adversity, there's an equal and opposite opportunity, and that's what you're talking about. There's growth in every experience we have,
Right.
whether it be positive, negative, or neutral, or just getting up and going to work and or just doing life. There's things to be learned every day.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's so, I mean, that's one of my favorite authors, and that's that book, Thinking You're Rich. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so true, is that, but when we look at it like that, most of the time, sometimes, our mind takes us, oh, I failed. No, you didn't fail. Basically, what do you learn from it? You didn't, it's just an opportunity to change your course and direction. So what can I learn from this failure? Most of the times, most of our learnings come from setbacks and heartbreaks and failures.
For
And
sure.
that's where we can get most of our learnings. But sometimes we need to stop and just be thankful and be grateful and have this sense of gratitude, so we can learn, wow, I can appreciate life even doing when life is doing great for us. We can also learn from that. So yeah, it's all about, that's the learning. Whatever we're going through, we can learn something, good, bad, or
Hmm.
indifferent. There's something to be learned from.
Gotcha. So, in your experience, how are those unhealed emotions and subconscious blocks showing up in a way that kind of prevent or hinder entrepreneurs from scaling? And what's a signal they can look for to say, "Oh, I need to pause and maybe step back"?
Usually, like we talked about earlier, everybody has blind spots, but a blind spot is not a blind spot until it prevents you from actually moving to the next level.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, okay, I'm trying to scale, right? Trying to scale, but as soon as I get close, what does it say? We'll use six figures. As soon as I get close to the six-figure mark, something happens in my behavior, and I sabotage,
Hmm.
or I get close. I get up to 80,000. I'm trying to hit 100. I get close to 80,000. Then all of a sudden, my behavior changes, my thought pattern changes, and then I go back down till I hit around 70. I says, oh my God, I need to start back doing what I'm doing. And then I get this momentum going back up again. I get close to it around 80, 85, then the same behavior. That's an indication that's a blind spot. That means
Yeah.
that somewhere in your emotional psyche, there is something that you've learned or accepted when you were younger that's now preventing you from actually doing what you want to do. So that's just an example of it, of that's an indication of a blind spot. Or another indication is that you are responding to a situation much stronger than actually called for, right?
Mm.
A, a, a,
Totally can
it's
relate to
like
that. I can relate to that. Just happened yesterday.
it's like, you know, it's like somebody steps on your foot. We'll just use that as an example,
Yeah.
and you just haul off and just punch them in the face. Not that far, but what I'm saying is that your reaction to that event is just like, is this a normal reaction to an event? And that usually is an indication of a blind spot. Meaning, I'm coaching and mentoring individuals, and someone comes into my office and I just goes off like, why? They just ask a simple question. That means that there's something that could be preventing you from actually being the best version of yourself. So some just indications like that you're not responding in a normal way, or now what I want, like you said, I want to be doing what I'm doing. So what would stop me from doing it now? I want to get in front
Yeah.
of the mic. I can't get in front of the mic, and it's preventing me from actually growing and expanding. So those are some indications that there's definitely a blind spot there.
You know, and it's funny. I've been in front of a mic for years because I'm a singer in a band.
Right.
I'm a drummer, so I'm behind everybody, number one, and
Right.
I'm behind a drum set with a bunch of cymbals around me. So there was this
There's a lot of
facade of
barriers there.
this protection barrier. Uh, so when entrepreneurs recognize that, and I can totally relate to the over responding, you know, in a way that's like, oh, well, how could you? Well, there must be, for me, I'm really concerned about how people are treated. And so
Right.
when people are mistreated for no apparent reason, it boils up in me. And
Right.
so sometimes I respond in the wrong way.
Right.
But when I do that, what's the next step for me to what do I do? How do I say, okay, I acknowledge something, but what do I do?
Well, basically, I think I do have. I think I wrote an article not too long ago. I'm saying not too long ago, but it's been a while. But where you're now is like, okay, you need to stop in. Well, we talked a little bit about it, by sadness, and that's what any emotion. Always remember that any feeling, whatever feeling that I'm getting, whatever I'm going through, is now trying to communicate with me, right? And so now,
Hmm.
give yourself space to actually allow it to communicate with you. One of the things that I share with my clients is that after that moment or during that moment, stop and maybe put your body back into what we call parasympathetic, activate your parasympathetic nervous system. The
Mm.
parasympathetic nervous system is when the body feels safe, the body is in its normal rhythm. And one way to do that is take some deep breathing.
Yeah.
So just basically do some what we call diaphragmatic breathing. Diaphragmatic breathing is when you breathing from your diaphragm. So when you breathe in, your diaphragm goes up. When you breathe out, obviously it goes down. Not It's the opposite of how we normally think breathing is. So the diaphragm moves up and then you're breathing out. So normally do some diaphragmatic breathing. I normally do, like for me, when I'm feeling that feeling, I normally do a 4 hold it for 4, breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it, and then breathe out at a count of 8. So like 4
Mm.
in, 8 out, until the body kind of starts getting to a rhythm and starts to relax. Then allow yourself then to kind of go inward and ask yourself the question, what is it that I need to learn from this? What is it I need to grow from this? What is it I need to get from this event in order for me to allow it to let it go? And then listen to your higher self or your spiritual self or your godlike self. It's going to give you a learning, it's going to give you something. You Sometimes it may not come in that moment, but
Yeah.
just be attentive to it, because it's going to come back with something that you need to take an action with. And that's the key. Now you need to take an inspired action based on what has come up from that little moment in time.
And so when you say inspired action, is that something that just came to you? Like, when you do the breathing exercises and you ask those questions, is the response, is that's the answer, but then there's needs to be action. So what is that?
So basically, a case in point would be an inspired action. Okay, I I was driving in the car. Someone cut me off. I did everything, gave him the fingers and all this stuff, and just was running off. I like that's way too much, right? Okay, okay. All right, let me put my body in a calm situation. Let me take some deep breathing. Then ask myself, what is it can I learn from this? What is it I need from this event? Oh, what I need to do is when I see that event again, something like that happens to me again, instead of me reacting the way I'm reacting, the action I need to take is stop and count to 10. That may come up to you, right? That is the action. So that's your inspired action. The inspired action is stop and count to 10 if that happens. Now something else might come up and says, you know what? Why don't you just take your journal out and kind of share with yourself how you're feeling and how can you do this better the next time? So the inspired action would be take out the pen and paper and do the journaling. Whatever that
Okay.
is, that's so important that you do that action because the action part is what your higher self is telling you what you need. Most of the
Yeah.
time people miss that step and they don't take the action. Sometimes when in these situations where things are happening and we get these inspired things to do, we said we don't. It's so important that we start taking
Mm.
that action.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and this inspired action, what my wife does, my wife, she speeds a little bit, but she drives a half hour to work, 35 minutes to work every day,
Right.
which is not unusual in California. But people cut her off, and she's trying to, go the speed limit, but you need to go with the flow of traffic too. But
Right.
people just are zipping past and they cut her off, and she used to get really upset, but now she says, "Wow, they must be in a real hurry. So they must be late for work." And
Right.
so she's my half glasses half full woman, and she is the one who calms me down when she, well, wait a minute, here's the other side that you should be thinking about.
Yes.
It's like so helpful, so
Yes.
helpful.
Yeah, and that's so true. I mean, even like for me, it's like one of the things I used to get extremely upset when when I'm hosting a podcast or something, and the guest is late or don't show up. It's like, how can he not show up? And I'm spending my time and investing my time and my money into the show, yada yada. But then I stop like the last 3 or 4 years since my son passed. Is like, okay, what is it they're experiencing today? What is it could they be going through?
Hmm.
And stop and start asking a question. That's one thing we can all do. Ask
Yeah.
a question. Are you okay?
Hmm.
What's going on in your life today? And what I've learned, Paul, is that number one, I don't sweat the that small stuff anymore. It's
Hmm.
like, and usually if you ask that one question, I mean, 9 times out of 10 now, when somebody's late or something's happening in their life, it's for a reason. It's like, one person was, I was at the hospital all night and I couldn't get there and I didn't have cell phone reception, so I couldn't call you. But what if I've gone off? I've gotten all this negative energy,
Yeah.
and this person couldn't respond even if they wanted to.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, just stopping and now I'm learning these new little habits of what we call a pattern interrupt. You're interrupting that old pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're getting close to the end. Is there anything that you would like our audience to know, or that I didn't ask you that you'd like me to ask?
So, well, basically, you did not. First of all, you did a great job of asking me some really great questions, and we've had a great conversation. It's
Yeah,
just
we have.
the fact that the asking me is this journey difficult or hard? I think. I mean, and I think
Yeah.
the answer to that question is could be. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's part of life is that we have It's like we have these ups and these downs. The difference
Mm-hmm.
in the difference that I have now, the advantage that I have from my viewpoint is that I have tools that now help me regulate my behavior. It's not that I don't go through stuff. I go through things just like everybody else goes through, and I stop doing the stuff sometimes I need to be doing, just like most people do. But
Oh
the
yeah.
difference is that now I have the tools and I can easily jump back on track. It's like, okay, I had a bad day. That's okay. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to make it a life. I've had a bad moment. I don't have to make it the whole day.
Right.
So like just taking chunks and kind of jumping back on track and allowing ourselves to experience that moment, but don't let it. I think Zig Ziglar talks about that. You can spoil the moment, but don't spoil the day, right?
Yeah.
So let people.
Mm-hmm.
You can spoil a moment or have a bad moment, but don't make it your whole day.
Yeah. Great advice. Well, I think we've come to the point where we'd like to offer our listeners a gift. Can you tell us about that? It's something about core values.
Basically, values is our deepest level of programming where we make all of our decisions. One thing about values is that most of us has never stopped and asked ourselves what's important to us when it comes to our career. We'll just use career, but you have values in every area of your life, and then you have life values, but specifically in the area of career. So what we
Mm-hmm.
do in that 45-minute session is a value of about $297 value. Basically, what we do in that particular session is that we help you elicit your core values in a specific area. We use career, where now what is the programming that's running your behavior. So now you can show up with purpose and on purpose. It's a powerful session. Most people walk
Mm.
away with it like, oh my God, I never knew that that's what was driving my behavior.
Mm.
And because there's like normally we have about 8 to 10 values in the area. And the first 5 is the ones that really drive your behavior. And those are the ones that actually we usually find some type of blind spot that's preventing you from actually being your best version of yourself during that session.
Yeah. And be sure to mention if you do sign up for that, the Lead Machine Growth Show, so
Yes,
Curtis can tell where it came from. He's offering that for the first 15 listeners, and you can claim that session at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com/core values. That's www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com/core values, and that'll be in the show notes, and you can find us all over in all of the networks. So again, thank you for coming, Curtis. And as we sign off, remember faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. Until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyan and Curtis McCullom. Thank you, brother, for coming today. I really appreciated it and enjoyed our conversation.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyan, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.